Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are. Hello and welcome to episode 156 of the Terrible Book Club. I'm Chris, and this is Mary.
What is up?
Hi there, Mary. So as you can tell, Terrible Book Club listeners, we don't have Paris on hand. She's just taking an extra long break.
Just a little bit of a break, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were on a 2-month break since recording last time. Of course, none of the listeners noticed because we had a backlog to release there. But this is going to be the first episode back from our lengthy recording break here, and that's why we have Mary on hand here to discuss with us the novelization of the movie E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial.
In His Adventure on Earth, which is there's 3 different fonts in one title, which I think is always a good sign.
Always a good sign. Can you remind us who wrote this book, Mary?
Oh boy, his name is William Kotzwinkle. And apparently this is
name.
A quality name. He's not just some ghostwriter. Apparently, Steven Spielberg was actually quite the fan of Kotzwinkle and thought of him for the novelization and brought him to the studio to get a secret peek at the top secret E.T. puppet. So he is very well described in this book, which is not always the case with alien book novelizations. Get to that later.
That's very true. Okay, well, why don't I explain what we do here? If this is your first time listening to this show, what we do here at the Terrible Book Club is read books that we assume will be bad based on their cover, title, summary, or some combination of the 3. Sometimes, like today, we read books that our patrons, listeners, or friends, like Mary here, recommends that we read. So we do the opposite of what most people in a bookstore do, or while they're browsing the internet or something like that. Usually the experiment results in a disappointing read, but once in a while we end up liking the book.
Did I recommend this? Is that why this is happening? I don't remember. I'm so sorry if that's the case.
It was like a while ago that you recommended this to us and we finally got it right. I believe that's what happened. I could be rewriting history. Don't let me gaslight you, Mary, if you insist that didn't happen.
It's quite possible, because, spoiler alert, I actually do kind of like this book.
Okay. Well, I mean, usually Paris is the one that keeps track of things real good around here, so it's a little seat of the pants episode.
Busy here. And important, and I
am
I'm
not.
And idle and unimportant. So we are on a great start, I think.
It's not like I just ran in here from my work day to record this TBC episode. Okay, anyway, down to the content warnings. In addition to our usual barnyard language, which might be tamed with Mary here, but we'll see. I'm a sweary guy. Today's episode includes discussion or mention of government abductions and perhaps medical torture, and also a bit of MILF hunting.
Yeah, a little voyeurism, just a tad. Woof.
Yeah, just a touch of that there. Okay, so Mary, this is a hard copy of the book that I gave to you.
Yep.
So I would like for you to read the summary on the back of the book here for us.
Oh, you bet. All right. What do you do when you're lost, millions of miles from home, surrounded by frightening creatures? You do what the old botanist did when he was accidentally left behind on Earth. First, you find a friend. Filmmaker Steven Spielberg and novelist William Kotzwinkle, those are in all caps, so filmmaker Steven Spielberg and novelist William Kotzwinkle together create a magical story about 2 unforgettable friends, a gentle being from another world who is stranded on Earth, hunted, afraid, and alone, and a 10-year-old boy who finds him and takes him home.
He's gonna make him home, Mary.
I've only had half a porter. I don't know why I did that.
He hollows out E.T. in the novelization and lives inside. No, it kind of actually does sound like in the middle of that summary as if the friend that E.T. made was Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I it's hard to describe the back of this book, but basically the first 2 sentences are like bolded as if they are their own thing. And then the rest, starting with filmmaker Steven Spielberg, is like not bolded. There's a lot of fonts going on in this cover. I'll just put that out there.
That's how you know you've had a quality production on the book there.
Absolutely.
Is when you get lots of fonts, when they got room for lots of fonts.
This book did sell 3 million copies in its first 3 years. So,
wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's quite something.
But this was before everybody had a VCR. So film novelizations were like a way to watch the movie again at your house. It pretty much was the only way. And it came, I mean,
Good
okay,
point.
So sorry. I did a little bit of digging because I can't help myself. I'm a giant nerd.
Please present everything that you have dug up and just throw it at me randomly. Feel free to interrupt.
Here's some random background info for you. Apparently, before there were film novelizations, there were theater novelizations dating all the way back to the earliest one I could find mention of. Some friend of Shakespeare novelized Pericles, Prince of Tyre, which is a play that might be by Shakespeare, might be like half by Shakespeare. We're not really sure. Anyway, he novelized it. And this is when like printing presses were like not everywhere and not super common. So that's kind of impressive. But then like skipping forward, probably the next most famous novelization of a play is Peter Pan, because that was a play first.
Oh.
And then was later a book.
I didn't know that was a play at all.
Yeah, he wrote. It was actually, I think it was like a brief mention of Peter Pan in a short story or a poem or something, and then he wrote the play, and then the novel came out, and that's the version most of us are familiar with, because the novel is what got made into the movies.
So Peter Pan is like a third hand, like the version that I saw that was animated is like a third hand retelling.
Yeah, kinda.
Wow, that's impressive. I wonder if they had the alligator in the original version.
Oh, yeah. That's all
part.
The stuff is there. Yeah, the alligator, Captain Hook, all that stuff. I mean, they probably did use the play as source material, but then maybe stuff from the book as well. I'm not actually sure. I thought that was fun because that's like one of those things that's in the back of my mind. Like, I knew that, but sometimes I forget. And then every time I think about it again, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a play first. Anyway.
That's a thing I know. Oh,
yeah.
That's a fact in there. Cool.
But then, of course, you had movies come along, and movie novelizations were kind of, right from the very beginning, a way for people to re-experience the movie. And they got real popular in like the 70s and 80s, especially after Star Wars came out. So they had a lot of merchandising for Star Wars to an unprecedented degree that had never really happened before. And so there were books, action figures, t-shirts, breakfast cereal, like everything. And they made so much money that like everybody started doing movie novelizations. And they do it, even now, they do movie novelizations, not for every movie, but like kind of random movies. Like I have a novelization of Crimson Peak for some reason, the Guillermo del Toro movie.
Did you know that we read that
Did
on
you?
this
I'm
show,
so sorry. That it wasn't.
And there
good.
is
It
an
was
episode that you can listen to of us reading Crimson Peak.
I'll listen to that episode instead of finishing the book because it's not good. But there's also novelizations of comic books. Like The Death of Superman has a novelization, that like whole comic book arc. They did a novelization version, which I've read that, but I haven't read the comic book. So I'm all over the place.
Ground for a TBC, although that's a pretty good comic arc, so that's probably not.
It is. It's actually
really
not. It's not a terrible book. But the thing with novelizations, as I'm sure everyone out there is totally aware, they're not super well regarded. Like they're not regarded as real literature, which is probably fair. But I was reading, so it's fair. It's an adaptation of a movie, something that was meant to be visual and cinematic, and now it's just words on a page. But that doesn't mean that they don't have no artistic value. I mean, some of them probably do, but like writers spend a lot of time on this sort of thing. It can often take longer to write a book than it can to shoot a movie. So just saying. That's a little bit of background.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly get into some things about novelizations here. There's a couple of little setup things I want to get to before we start talking about the book proper here.
Let's do it.
we usually like to kind of give the listeners a little bit of a characters and setting once over so they know some of the characters we'll be talking about here, and a summary of the general story. That's not just the back of the book summary, but just like generally what happens in the book, so they're not completely lost. Since this is a pretty popular movie from way back when, I don't think I have to go too much in depth here. You can just Wikipedia this shit, honestly, but just in case you haven't seen E.T., and you know what? We're millennials here, Mary, so we have to acknowledge the existence of people younger than us that never would have seen this and will be like, what are you talking about here? Okay, so the main cast here is you have the main characters is you've got Elliot is sort of in the movie, he's the main protagonist. In the book here, he's sort of secondary to E.T. himself. E.T. is called that because it's short for Extra-Terrestrial, which, I mean, I guess... it's kind of like lame to be called that, you know, if I showed up on another planet and people just called me human all the time, or like I guess ET as well, because I would be extraterrestrial.
Yeah, you would be.
Well, that's not my name, dude.
And we actually never learn his real name.
No,
even in the sequel, as far as I could tell, which I'll tell you about later.
Sure. Yeah, he's just E.T. here. Elliot is sort of the main boy that he interacts with. There's Elliot's sister, Gertie, played by Drew Barrymore in the original movie.
Oh, baby Drew Barrymore,
Baby Barrymore. Then we've got Elliot's brother, Michael, who is just, kind of here to be a dick a lot of the time. It's also in the movie. Then you've got Mary, who is Elliot's mom, who is very important in this novelization for a reason I hinted at earlier.
Yeah.
And then we've got, some of Elliot's friends as side characters. There's government agents popping up trying to, capture an alien. And that's generally it for the character. Oh, there's Harvey the dog. Harvey the dog is important.
Harvey the dog. He's very important.
I would actually found him endearing in this novelization.
Yes.
Okay, and now just a little summary of what happens in the story. I'm going to be real quick and dirty about this. E.T. crashed. He's left behind by his alien buddies because they're trying to escape. They sat down because they're botanists and they just want to catalog plant and I guess some animal life here and there, but mostly plant life. E.T. decides to run and look in a house window because he's curious and just kind of misses the taxi on the way home.
Yeah.
And so he's left behind and he decides to try to approach the humans in the house that he was peering in anyway. Elliot finds him and sort of takes him in, hides him in a closet. Eventually, Elliot's sister and brother find out they're still hiding the thing from their mom and friends for a bit. Government agents basically were sniffing around anyway and are slowly closing in on E.T. Eventually, Elliot and Gertie and Michael and all their pals get to know E.T. a little bit better. They realize he's trying to get home. They try to help him assemble basically a telephone so he can phone home. Basically a fancy satellite dish, since E.T. can magically take apart any piece of technology despite it being alien technology to him. Uses a speak and spell to basically send messages back into space, which is some really impressive work, I gotta say. I didn't realize speak and spells could shoot messages out into the
they're very powerful
stratosphere. E.T. gets really obsessed with Elliot's mom in a way. The government agents try to kidnap him, and in a last-minute gambit, Elliot and his friends help E.T. escape and shoot off back into space with his alien pals who came back to pick him up because of the speak and spell telephone. The end. That's the general overview. If you want more detail, watch the fucking movie. I'm not here to tell you every single detail.
Yeah, well,
all right.
You won't get a lot from the movie if you were curious about the book, if that makes sense. Because like you said, the book is pretty much entirely from E.T.'s perspective and his inner monologue, which is not something we get in the movie at all.
And I think that's a good segue into the first kind of half of most TBC episodes. We like to start with the things that were good, the things that we enjoyed about this book. And I do have to say, I can understand why Spielberg might have been a fan of this author here, because it's not necessary, sentence to sentence, it's fine, right? There's nothing terrible necessarily about.
No, not at all. In fact, quite the opposite.
Yeah, how E.T.'s inner monologue is done.
Yeah.
He is like sort of a gentle botanist soul out here just to like check out plants. And Elliot's mom too, that's for things that were bad, maybe
we'll
bad
get,
later on. We'll get to
that. Yeah, I had this section kind of earmarked just to give people an example of this guy's writing, which is, I just feel like it's weirdly good for a book that is not meant to be anything more than a cash grab. But so this is describing the interior of E.T.'s ship. Up the hatchway they went, and into the lovely ornament's interior pastel glow. They moved unconcernedly through its pulsing corridors of technological wonders and into the central wonder of the ship, a gigantic inner cathedral of Earth's foliage. This immense greenhouse was the core of the ship, its purpose, its specialty. Here were lotus flowers from the Hindu lagoon, ferns from the floor of Africa, tiny berries from Tibet, blackberry bushes from a backcountry American road. Here, in fact, was one of everything on Earth, or nearly everything, for the job was not yet done. It's like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I get a sense of like what the interior of the craft looks like and what it's designed for. What it's basically just a giant intergalactic greenhouse.
Yeah. And all his buddies are botanists. And I think there's other parts of the ship that doesn't really get into in this book, but like that's just one part of the ship. And when they go back to E.T.'s planet, this is something that happens in the sequel. The whole planet is just filled with plants from other planets. So the whole planet is like, what do you call it? Like an heirloom garden where you're trying to preserve things. Basically, it's like the heirloom garden of the universe.
That's an ecological nightmare. Like honestly, trying to balance all of the plants from different worlds.
Yeah. Realistically, not really a thing, but in the book universe, it's quite beautiful. But anyway,
I mean, maybe that's just that alien species specialty. It's just like we're real big plant nerds.
They're big plant nerds. Yep.
And I think that's a nice kind of dovetail into like the main thing that I enjoyed about this novelization is something you said before, is that it's not just retelling the movie from the same perspective. We get something extra out of it. So even if you did watch the movie, there's something more to pull from here, which is E.T.'s perspective and what's going on in his mind. Because in the movie, largely, you're not getting anything from him except his like, like that from him. So
yeah, waddling around, pointing at things. He becomes much more eloquent in the book than he ever achieves in the movie. He's able to speak in somewhat complete sentences in the book and very eloquently telepathically, which is not really conveyed in the movie. So I liked that because at least in the book, focusing on his inner voice and what he's thinking is way more charming than focusing on what other people are thinking and feeling, because, spoiler alert, everybody in this book is depressed. Every single person. Elliot's depressed.
Real heavy.
Mary is extremely depressed and sexually frustrated. And I think the only one that doesn't, even the dog's depressed. The only one that seems like they're at all like having a nice time in life is Gertie, and that's just because she's 5 and doesn't know better yet. She'll get there.
She hasn't been brought down by the weight of single motherhood like
family.
her mother. We like that. We do get a little bit more of Mary's point of view too, and it seems like I apologize for being crass here, but it seems like a lot of Mary's characters, she just wants that good D.
Yep, absolutely. And she's worried about being a bad mother, and she's worried about how none of the kids listen to her or respect her, and she's just kind of given up on life. The only problem with how Mary is written is the fact that it's written by a man, and he has no idea what he is talking about. And so she is obsessed with binge eating, and she's also feels deep shame for wanting to eat bread with jelly on it and this whole thing. And
it's not bread with jelly.
Yeah, woof. It's just it's not great, but it it does lead to a very fun exchange like this. This is something that she's thinking to herself. All I need is for about 10 minutes at the office and maybe a little later in heavy traffic. She swung her feet off the bed in a firm resolution to face the evening squarely without any anxiety symptoms. But where was romance? Where was the exciting male in her life? He was waddling down the fire road.
So like literally like the
so
where
much.
is the exciting male in her life is just like so on the nose male gaze way of
absolutely,
writing.
absolutely.
That
But look, he tried.
I burst out laughing.
Tried.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna give. This is written in the early '80s, obviously when the movie came out. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and like he tried.
He did. And I also like the very obvious just drawing the line from like she's thinking about a dude. Here comes a stubby
Here comes
alien.
E.T. Oh, so hot. Like a sentient turd. I mean, it's a polarizing movie. I don't know about your age group or whatever, but I find that people that are around my age kind of either super love it or super hate it. And when I was a kid, I super loved it, and then it kind of faded into indifference. But
yeah,
I loved it. Yeah, it's like I loved it. I thought it was great. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. And then when I got older,
friends with
I'm
an alien. Like, what kid wouldn't want to be friends with an alien, right? It's just
he could have been cuter, but
sure, but like that's part of the charm is that he's kind of gross in a way, and like that's also sort of some of the charming aspect of this book too is that Elliot and E.T. and also all the other kids are kind of getting friendly with this like horrendous creature. So there's a little bit of this like, oh well, we can learn to be kind no matter how someone looks sort of aspect to it, or if they come from a completely different planet.
Yeah, I'd say another good thing is that Elliot and the other kids, to a lesser extent, go through a sort of character arc, character development, which isn't really clear in the movie either. In the movie, they're kind of like, oh, we're kids and we're cute and we're going to help an alien in the end. In the book, it's made pretty clear that all these kids are, in their own words, twerps. Mm-hmm. Like they think they know they're twerps. That's part of why they're depressed. Is they're like,
God, I'm just so twerpy all the time. They're playing D&D all the time in this book, which I don't know if that was happening in the movie. I forget if that was a thing in the movie.
I think it was. That was a thing in the movie. But it's more like they're not kind. They're not empathetic. They're not good kids. They're normal kids. They're just normal, self-centered little twerps, basically. And as Elliot kind of has some self-awareness of this, but he, no desire to change it until he meets E.T., and E.T. kind of teaches him how to be empathetic to, a pile of talking mud, and therefore he is not a twerp anymore. I mean,
and like when they help E.T. escape, they're like learning how to do. Except that one nerdy little shit that like basically blackmails Elliot and E.T. with like you show me that kid.
He does the right thing in the end. It's so funny. So like the government agents are like chasing them. And they're getting away on their bicycles, and the little nerd Lance is like, I know where they're going. And the mom tries to like muffle him so that he won't say it. And he's like, they're going to the other side of the lake, which is not where they're going. Mm-hmm. So the government's guys all run to the other side of the lake. And he's like, I'm maybe a nerd, but I'm not stupid. And then he leads Mary to where they're actually going. So like even the nerd gets like a little tiny bit of character development, little arc there. The funny thing is, this whole time, at least until the very end, E.T. doesn't actually like these kids all that much.
No, he's like kind of okay with Elliot because Elliot's like trying to help him a little bit, but he's mostly annoyed and just kind of wants, he's trying to communicate with them and like, I need this, give me the speak and spell, give me some food. God damn it, I'm so hungry.
He says Elliot is dumber than a cucumber. And it's actually not even an insult. It's just a fact because E.T., and this is also something not in the movie, can talk to plants. And it turns out that plants are very gossipy and extremely catty.
Yes. Like that. I find that a little bit charming. It's a weird detail to add, but like, why not if it wasn't in the movie? And I guess, plants have an inner life too. We should respect them.
Well, not only that, but they notice the lives of the humans around them. Like he's talking to the green beans in the garden, and he's like, "Where's the dad?" And the dad's like, "Ooh, he ran off with the secretary or whatever." It's like, "Ooh, green beans spilling the tea." Like, what the hell?
You should actually hear what the tea leaves themselves are the most gossipy bitches out there.
Oh my God, they know everything.
They're because they're all over the place. Everyone's having some tea.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
I guess if I was a plant, what better do I have to do instead of just like literally perceive what's around me and let the other plants know what's up in our plant gossip network?
There's so many weird details in this book that I feel like we'll forget some. So maybe I just recommend going and reading it. But another weird detail is that E.T. is 10 million years old. That you didn't know that.
That one seemed really unnecessary to me. Where it's like, wait, so he's just basically immortal?
10 million years
that
old.
helps nothing. Maybe it's like ET's planet years, and those years like are really quick because the planet orbits the sun like all the time, like
maybe.
constantly.
I could be. I don't think so though. I think he's just 10 million years old.
Yeah, that's, I also don't think that was taken into account.
Yeah, and his telepathy can reach out to basically God, which I think he calls the captain.
Mm-hmm.
And the universal mind is something that he can like talk to, so that's cool, I guess.
E.T. can talk to a lot of people: humans, God, plants.
God, yeah, green beans.
Not really the dog though.
No, I don't know if he can't talk to the dog or if he's just not listening because it's a dog.
That's
but
true.
Harvey has a very extensive inner monologue, mostly involving wanting to eat things. And also getting really freaked out every time he's telepathically linked to ET because he sees the cosmic bone and it like freaks him out.
It's like, this is too much.
Yeah, too much. I can't handle the cosmic bone.
Harvey's also like a little bit bitey. Like he doesn't really
He's a little bitey.
He just wants to bite things generally, and he holds himself back. So there's a dog with restraint, which is admirable for a dog, I have to say.
Yep. I mean, among Mary's many aliens as a mother and ex-wife, she also is not training her dog very well. So
Harvey just knows how to be generally kind of a decent dog. I wouldn't say an outright good dog all the time, but
yeah. So yeah, I guess another thing I liked was, and this is just like fun behind the scenes stuff. Apparently, in the book, E.T. is fed M&Ms by Elliot. And lured into the house with M&Ms, which he compares to like the ambrosia of the gods. And he is like, okay, I totally understand humanity now. Thousands of years of evolution has led to the M&M. Like, got it. Perfect. Good job, humanity.
I mean, I agree, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they're great.
But if there's nothing else for humanity, it's food. That is
it's
like
food. It's candy,
our greatest thing.
But I don't know if you remember, but in the movie, it is Reese's Pieces.
I do remember that it is Reese's Pieces.
And there's a reason behind that. Apparently, M&M, whoever was in charge of their marketing, Mr. M. They asked the M&M guys, like, hey, you want to sponsor this movie, or however it worked back in the day. And they took one look at E.T. and they're like, nah, we're good.
Not that thing.
No, we're good.
We prefer to have our live sentient candy shelled beings that are, that's their own kind of horror. We can't add to that with an extraterrestrial on top. Yeah.
So they approached Hershey's, and the guy who was in charge of marketing for Hershey's and Reese's Pieces was like, it took some convincing, but he agreed to it. And Reese's Pieces sales went up 65% during the run of the movie. They made a real mountain out of it.
And
it
Mr.
was
M
everywhere.
was like, God damn it.
E.T.'s favorite candy. It was on posters and everything. And I just thought that was really, really funny because he was working, the Kotzwinkle was working from the original script, and a glimpse of the E.T. puppet. That's basically all the visual information he had, is what was in the script and the puppet. And he ran with it. So even Elliot described in the book doesn't look like the kid they cast in the movie. That doesn't really matter, but
it doesn't. But
little white kid doesn't. They're all look the same.
They're all interchangeable. Whatever.
But in the book, he has glasses, and it's like, okay, whatever. I just thought that was funny because it
fascinating.
E.T. tried to match Star Wars in terms of merchandising. So E.T. cereal, E.T. posters, E.T. apparel, everything E.T.
We didn't really get that level of expanded universe that Star Wars spooled off into, though.
No.
They tried. They kind of tried.
This is a segue into, there was a sequel specifically to the book, that sanctioned by Steven Spielberg and written by Kotzwinkle again, and it's called The Green Planet, and it's thumbnail sketches. E.T. goes home, he misses Earth, and he keeps sending out telepathic signals to Elliot, who's having his first crush.
Those M&Ms and those hot moms.
Well, in the sequel, it's Reese's. They changed it. They retroactively changed it back to Reese's.
Cool.
Which is really funny. Anyway, and so E.T. tries to get back to Earth, but everyone on his planet is like, no, you're a mess. Stay here.
Guys,
I'm paraphrasing.
You just don't know about these Reese's Pieces. I got to bring them back for you. And then also, I'm going to take a picture of that mom. Let me tell you, boys.
Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah,
we'll get into the mom when we get into the bad stuff. But I think the only other thing I had on my list in terms of some fun stuff was, so this book was, the screenplay was written by a woman who at the time was Harrison Ford's wife. And there's a scene in the scene in the movie where Elliot, kind of gets second degree high by E.T. drinking all that beer.
Yep.
And so then he gets pulled into the principal's office. And this was a scene that was cut from the movie, but the principal gives him this lecture. And then Elliot starts floating around because E.T. is still drunk and can move things with his mind from miles away. Who knows? Doesn't matter.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense to me.
So the principal sees him floating around and is like, "Yeah, I'm done. You can leave." And then
turns out I don't have to discipline you if this is happening.
We're good. And then reaches into his drawer and grabs some aspirin. Apparently, there's an earlier edition of this book that we didn't read, where the principal has a drawer full of contraband drugs taken from the students at this presumably middle school.
Okay.
And he reaches into the drawer and takes a handful of Quaaludes.
That's pretty heavy shit for a middle school in suburbia.
Anyway.
Say what you will about what middle schoolers get up to. I'm certain in my middle school there was perhaps some hard drugs happening here and there, but Quaaludes in the 80s.
Yeah, anyway, so
suburbia.
That was a tangent. Look, I've done a lot of research. I don't know why.
I can tell. I appreciate that. You're bringing
I'm not busy
much
or
to this episode.
But so the other thing was that they did film this scene, and the principal was played by Harrison Ford because he had worked with Steven Spielberg on Raiders of the Lost Ark previously and was the husband of the screenwriter. And this scene did not make it into the movie, but you can find a fuzzy version of it on YouTube. And you can't really see anyone's faces, but you're like, yep, that's Harrison Ford. I recognize that voice, lecturing this kid who's now floating by the ceiling.
I do really just want to watch it so I can see the bit of Harrison Ford just dejectedly reaching into the contraband drug drawer.
Yeah, I don't know if they filmed that part, but yeah, you can see it on YouTube. It's very weird.
Okay, you got any more fun facts for us about E.T. and the expanded E.T. universe, the EEU, ETEU?
Basically, just the rest of it is just that the way E.T. looks is probably the most controversial part of the movie in terms of people's memory of it. They're like, it's a perfectly fine, sweet Spielberg movie. It's classic Spielberg. But this Muppet is just disgusting. In hindsight, he's just the ugliest possible alien. There's nothing cute about him except maybe his Muppet eyes. And the rest of it,
I remember him as kind of a little bit wet at all times.
Yes. So his planet is kind of swampy, and so his physique is more suited to the needs of his planet. He's got those paddly feet, and they are for paddling around in his swamp ass planet.
Wow, truly a cursed area of just nonstop swass.
Yeah, and so in the book, there's many fun descriptions of what he looks like. Misshapen heads, drooping arms, and roly-poly, sawed-off torsos. This is a children's book.
I don't know how sawed off works in that sentence, to be honest with you.
I don't know either. Naturally distended stomach, hobgoblinish, bulbous eyes, nose like a bashed-in Brussels sprout, body like overgrown prickly pear.
Those are the worst lyrics to a sexy song that I've ever heard. Imagine that Nicki Minaj joint.
Yeah, I knew what's really sad is by the end of the book, and we can, I guess, transition into, what maybe was kind of bad about this book, which is this specific thing. He starts to feel like humans are the beautiful ones, and he starts to feel ugly, which I'm like, that is so sad. It
really is. There's a lot of little body dysmorphia happening there.
Absolutely.
But this is indeed a fantastic transition. He starts to feel that way
because he is sexually attracted to Elliot'S mom, and it's a big plot point in the book. It's
the
plot point
in the book is that he's really hot for Elliot'S mom.
And instantly. So I'm like, in my fuzzy memory of having read this book many, many years ago, I'm like, oh, maybe I remember him being hot for the mom, but maybe he's drawn to her energy or
no,
he feels motherliness from her. Nope, he's hot for her body. Second he lays eyes on her, he's like, who is this ravishing creature? that I am sexually attracted to, even though why would he be? Why would he be?
So
it doesn't make any sense.
That is the quintessential point of like this being written by a dude in the 80s is like,
yeah,
you're so anthropocentric and like male centric in your own mind that you think that human women transcend beauty standards across the fucking cosmos.
She is the willow creature. It's like,
a wrinkly, wet turd creature from a swamp planet would also
presumably is attracted to other wrinkly, wet turds. I mean, one would assume.
You would think that would be the case, but no, apparently the human female form is so divine that... And like, you know, I'm into it too. I'm a straight guy, but like, God, everyone, you just gotta chill. We've had too many pieces of art and like works that are just about like, wow, ladies sure look good, and like I get it, but I think we've all said enough about it at this point. There are other things to talk about. Consider the Reese's Pieces, perhaps. Can we talk about how that is also apparently intergalactically good?
Well, it also explains why E.T. is so into Halloween, because you go house to house getting divine ambrosial candy. Human beings' highest creation. Makes perfect sense. Halloween is awesome.
Back on the mom stuff.
Oh, boy. Like, he wants to watch her in the shower.
Yeah.
But he's prevented from doing so by the machinations of Harvey the dog.
I guess good dog, good boy, I suppose, Harvey, who like recognizes that there's a predator in a midst, and he's like, I'm not, this is the being that takes care of me and feeds me. You will not perv on her, my good alien turd friend.
Yeah.
But it's just like the way the parallels are where like that scene you described before, where it's like she needs a good man in her life, and the next line is like, he was waddling down the fire road.
And they never in the book really meet. I can't remember if they have any kind of moment in the movie. I mean, I know she's
Doesn't he
there.
walk into her bedroom like once or twice?
He does.
And she just doesn't notice.
Watches her sleeping. It's like, it's gross. But like, they have this whole big buildup, and they never have any moment of actual communication. So like he, in the scariest scene in the movie, if you recall, she sees E.T. with Elliot. They're both sick. They're both dying. She grabs the kids and tries to run away, because as one would when there was a sentient turd in your shower. And then when she opens the front door and there's a government guy out there in a full like spacesuit, PPE, and they're like plastic wrapping their house, because they're honing in. They're going to capture ET. And she tries to go to another door and then opens that, and there's another guy there who's all like in a big helmet and PPE. It's like, and it's in the book or in the movie, that's the scariest part.
Absolutely.
So there's that. Then E.T. and Elliot are dying. E.T. dies, but then comes back to life. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Elliot and him escape, and E.T. goes on the ship. So he never has a moment with Elliot's mom to be like, "Hey, sup?
Can I have your number? Actually, I would like to phone to this home.
Sorry about using your son."
But hey, perhaps he needs a dad, and I'm here from across space and time.
I'd be a good dad and a great lover, maybe.
I like plants.
How do you guys do
flowers? I have got many in my ship. Would you like to come aboard, perhaps?
I have a glowing finger.
Human?
But yeah, the fact that they build this whole thing up, and that there's no resolution to it, it just makes the whole thing very creepy and weird, and they take it way too far.
There's the actual creepiest part, which I don't know if you remember here, but the fact that Elliot's mom has dreams about encountering an ET-like being.
Yeah, they're like dancing in a gazebo or something. Romantic dreams.
Yeah, and she's like, she wakes up confused and everything. So you gotta wonder, is E.T. the at least partially psychic or telepathic creature, like grooming her in her like dreams?
They never say. I mean, he can do things like that consciously, but it seems like he also does things like that unconsciously. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, he's having wet dreams about the mom, and they're just being sent to her because she's right there. So I don't know, but it was very unnecessary, very unnecessary. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't add to anyone's character, and it's just bad. And
it's
I'm trying
a
to
classic example of needless romantic subplot. Even though that's not even this is the plot in the book is like E.T. is like, for a minute he's like, maybe I don't even want to go home. Actually, she's kind of got it going on, man.
Right? And then he wants to go back. Oh, anyway, I can't remember what year Earth Girls Are Easy came out, but I feel like there was a bit of a reference to that. Like, all aliens want to fuck human ladies. It's just because they're just that hot. But to be fair, in Earth Girls Are Easy, if you shave those aliens, they turn into Jeff Goldblum. So at least there's like some symmetry.
Sure, there's like some anatomical lineup happening here.
Yeah.
As opposed to just whatever is happening. Like, I don't know what E.T. expects to happen. Right? Like, what does he think is gonna happen?
I don't know. I mean, I think
maybe
he thinks
it's
about
all
like
very like platonic, and like the way ETs reproduce it, like they don't even really, they just dance in a gazebo, and then 2 months later, or I guess 10 million years later, there's a new ET.
I can tell you that in the sequel, when he goes home and he goes to his parents' house, his dad's house. They mentioned that E.T. was like kind of just like created by his father. And so they just kind of make other beings individually without the need for a mate whenever they feel like it, I guess.
Is there a mom then?
No, it's just the dad.
Okay, so parent house.
So just parent.
So what is E.T.
So I don't know. Do they
feeling?
fuck? I don't know. Actually,
so what is the emotion that E.T. is feeling here?
I wasn't gonna bring this up, but ETs do fuck. There is a porn version of ET.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's considered canonical, but I suppose if we're allowing expanded
I mean, they never made a sequel, so any media is fair game. But yeah, there was a porn version of ET, and in the porn version, ET is played by a woman in body paint and prosthetics. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure.
I would just say don't Google it unless you want to scream forever.
Okay, sure. I don't think I'm going to do that, actually.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'm fine over here not knowing exactly what that looks like.
Say body paint.
I've seen enough horrors in my time.
Body paint is just not a good choice for porno. Just put that out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say that that's like the main bad thing here.
Yeah.
And we touched upon the writing of Mary, Elliot's mom, as a character just being a very like stereotypical idea of what some dude in the 80s thinks a single mom is like. Well, wow, she's just sitting here pining for a man the whole time. That's all she cares about. It can't conceivably be that she's done with relationships and she might have a fulfilling life outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and she never does, and it's sad. Poor thing.
Yeah.
But, again, like I said, I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. It's just she is written like a man assumes a woman thinks in the 80s before men started pretending to listen to women. So he did his best.
I've been tuned out this whole episode, Mary. Who are you again?
I'll just start from the beginning. So, anyway.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so, anyway, that was the bad.
Yeah, do you have anything to add in terms of things that you didn't love here? For me, it's really the MILF obsession, which, on its own, I'm not going to get down on that on its own as a concept. Yep. It's just E.T.'s MILF obsession.
Yeah, it makes no sense and it's bad. Other bad things, no, not so much. I mean, the fact that you're getting this perspective of E.T. where he isn't instantly drawn to these children and befriending them in his mind. It's just like, oh God, you're here. You're my best chance. I guess I'll do my best to get along with you. That's a little weird, and considering the movie is basically all about this intergalactic friendship, that makes it. I feel like that weakens it a little bit.
Yes,
but he's mom stuff aside, such a charming character to read about, and he's trying so hard, and he's really doing his best, and he's just a lost botanist. Makes it sweeter, and it also makes it more heart-wrenching when he's left behind initially.
Yeah.
Which at the beginning is like, yeah, this happens because that's how the movie has to start. But then you're like, oh no. Poor baby.
I would agree generally that like this is a pretty good novelization of a movie that adds something to, especially if you like enjoyed the movie a lot and you want to, experience a different side of it. It's pretty good. So this is kind of the final section of the show is called Can We Fix It? Where, like, if it was bad, do we have anything that we could alter? Even if it was pretty good, I think the main tweak you could do is switch out the mom obsession with a food obsession.
Yeah. I mean, he already has the food obsession, right? So it's right just there.
Substitute that in, and like he's like have him like eat a pizza and like lose his mind about it. Like, right? Yeah. And like he can even then kind of like bond with Harvey the dog a little bit more, which would be kind of a cute, charming thing, although I don't want to reduce an intergalactic intelligence into being on the level of a dog. But I think like a new sensory experience that only this planet can provide is a legitimate reason for like E.T. to feel even like conflicted about, do I even want to go or not?
Absolutely. And if you still wanted him to have some sort of, interest or relationship with the mom, you could just have it be like he thinks that she is sweet and nice and momly. It doesn't have to be sexual and romantic. It can just be, she's cool, she's such a good mom, even though she's not, like, or whatever. There's many different ways this could have gone besides, I want to put my whatever I have inside of her.
Or whatever the hell it is. That's again, that's why it's so confusing, because like, what is he expect?
What's going on under there?
Expect to happen?
We don't get a glance at his undercarriage, so it's never revealed.
That's fine. I'm cool with that. We'll leave that for the ET porno.
Yeah.
UFO porno. Okay. Well, that's about all we have, hopefully, to say about this. Thank you, Mary, very much for joining us for this sort of special episode of just you and I. No Paris involved whatsoever. I'm freewheeling out here. And thank you for doing a lot of the legwork as well on those like fun facts and tidbits.
No problem.
I didn't do that.
It was fun.
I was trying to relax.
We didn't even get into the Michael Jackson audiobook of E.T., which isn't this book. It's a different, shorter book.
It's different. It has music, too.
Yeah, only less than 40 minutes long. Produced by Quincy Jones.
Oh, good.
And also had to be pulled only like a week or so after it was released because it conflicted with the release of Thriller, and there was a lawsuit, and so they had to pull the E.T. audiobook narrated by Michael Jackson.
Lovely.
I don't recommend like actually listening to this, although it is free on YouTube if you're curious. But I do recommend at least Googling the cover art for this.
Really good. It's really good.
It's E.T. standing behind Michael Jackson, gently cradling his shoulders. It's amazing. It's amazing. Apparently E.T.
You would think it would be like the other way around, right?
You would, because like E.T. is very small. But you know what? Whatever. Michael Jackson apparently loved E.T., which that tracks with all the half-known things that I know about Michael Jackson. He loves E.T. Loves him.
Makes total sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Another fun fact about novelizations, specifically novelizations of movies that have aliens in them, is the novelization of the movie Alien, which the author of that particular novelization was not allowed to see any of the concept art. So he just had the screenplay, and the screenplay had stage directions like alien comes out of door hatch or whatever. No physical description whatsoever. So he kind of just had to wing it. And so, not all authors are given all of the visual cues that this author was given when they're asked to adapt something like this.
All right, Mary. This is the point where we thank our patrons for supplying the funds for our hosting and stuff like that. So thank you, patrons. Thank you to Greg, Veronica, Will, D, Jared, Arant, Senior, Jakub, Lycoris, Elliot, Kieran, Martin, Luchek, Miri, Yanka, David, Anya, Patricia, Tommy was Donnie, Connor, Beast with the Least, Scott H, Robin, Lax Stodies of the Void, the Taco Eating Unicorn, Last Man on Earth 01, Funny Robot with Antennas, Hobby Boy 93, Harry 7, Renee, Emmy, Joyuse, The Ugly One, and our newest patron, Bleached Black Cat. Welcome to the Terrible Book Club fold. Hope you enjoy your time here. Thanks so much, everyone. All right, Mary, thank you again for joining us here on this extra special coming back from break episode of Terrible Book Club. We hope to see you again here sometime soon. Please don't be left behind on an alien planet when you're just looking for plants or something. Just be careful about that.
I will do my best.
All right. Thank you, Mary, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Terrible Book Club. Terrible Book Club is an independent podcast produced by your hosts, Paris and Chris. Sound design and audio editing by Chris, with sound effects and music by Epidemic Sound and sometimes also Chris. Our theme song is Kiss by Yearn, which is, you guessed it, actually also Chris. You can find more of his soothing synthy sounds on Bandcamp at yearn.bandcamp.com. Do you want us to review a book of your choice on the show? Do you want access to some extra audio-visual weirdness? If so, become a patron at patreon.com/terriblebookclub. If you'd like to send us a one-time tip instead, you can do that at ko-fi.com/terriblebookclub. You can also support TBC for free by sharing the show on social media, following our accounts on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Goodreads, telling your friends about your favorite episode, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or anywhere else on the internet. To send us book recommendations or your adorable pet photos, send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com.